Hello, my name is Lexi Davis. I'm a self-discovery coach, a yoga and meditation instructor, a love enthusiast, and a really playful human being. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this is Heart Snuggles, a holistic wellness podcast where I invite guests to drop into their heart space through authentic conversations and compassionate intentions, all in mini cuddly episodes, hoping that you connect to your truth in the most authentic version of yourself. I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart Snuggles. We're so happy you're here today and hope that you wake up feeling refreshed if you're listening to this in the morning. And to remember, if you're enjoying this episode or this podcast, to share it with friends and leave a review. And today I brought on a lovely, lovely guest, and I would love if you just gave everyone a little intro of yourself.
Hello, humans. My name is Lucia, and I've been grappling with this question for a while of who am I? Right now, I'm just a person that's really trying to figure out what next steps to take on her path. But more formally, I am currently living in Austin, Texas. I run my own business, and I live with my partner. And yeah, pretty much that's who I am right now.
Yeah, I know that question is so, I just like, there's no answer that ever feels satisfying to me. I'm like, I don't know who I am. Like, I'm not just my job. I'm so much more than that. So yeah, I feel it a lot.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I get stuck with that question, and I feel like sometimes I'll answer it, and then the next day I'm like, I feel like that's not even representative of who I am anymore.
We are so changing all the time. So we work on an app called Yoni Circle together. And yeah, it's a really beautiful app. If you guys haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. So I would like to start off with the question of the podcast, which is, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
Let me think. I feel like the last random act of kindness was, I had to take my partner, he was having an ear infection. And so we had to go to the doctor, and I was just sitting in the car because I didn't want to go in because of COVID. It's all kind of chaotic at any medical center. And so I was sitting in the car and kind of enjoying this like sauna-esque temperature, and just reading. And this lady walked by, and she just, I don't know, she just like made direct eye contact with me. And it wasn't a direct act of kindness, but I felt like just really touched by it. And I was reading this really spiritual book, so it was just this weird moment of just deep connection.
I love
a smile goes a long way. Like, you never, don't underestimate the power of something so simple.
Yes. I think those are one of the most beautiful moments. And I love that you said that too. At the end of every one of my yoga classes, I always like bring everyone's hands to their lips and say, remember the power of your smile can make a stranger's day. And it's facts. Like, because especially nowadays too, like, first off, we can't even see faces half the time. And then people don't make eye contact. We're like so afraid of each other. We're creating so much disconnection. And I'm like, no, this is like the worst thing we could ever do.
Yeah, no, it's funny. In the chapter that I just read, they talked about eye gazing and how just staring for 10 minutes straight into someone's eyes is so powerful, and how we get so uncomfortable with it. And there is such a disconnect with that because of, what we don't want to be seen as, because when we look at someone else, it's like a mirror. So it can be like, oh no, I don't want to look there.
Yeah, I've done that activity several times, and it's like, it's the first time I remember I did, I was so uncomfortable, and I was like, you like squirmy and all these things. And then now that I've done it so many times, I like enjoy it. But watching other people do it for the first time, and they're just like, it's so interesting. And I think it's so important that we incorporate that more, because it's like we can say so much by just looking in each other's eyes and just like feel so held.
Yeah. And taking the time to pause and just like be present. That's something that's also been on my mind a lot, because I feel like I'm always rushing to fill the silence. And sometimes I need to gather myself and really put together what's going on in my head in a cohesive way instead of just
Yeah, I was actually just reflecting on that too. I'm like, I love when I'm hanging out with a new friend and we can have silence. Like that is gold to me because it's like we can just be and it's not awkward. It's just like silence.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see in it.
Mhm. So I'd love to hear about your relationship and maybe like even before you got in it, who you were and where you were, and then yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah. So the end of 2019, I went through a really difficult breakup that kind of was the catalyst for a lot of change. And then that was compounded by, of course, the pandemic a few months later. So I was in the midst of like processing like a lot of trauma. It ended really poorly. There was physical stuff that happened, and it was just really heavy. And then I was forced to sit in it because the pandemic hit and quarantine hit, and I wasn't able to fall back into my old coping, which was going out and drinking or going on more dates and just kind of jumping on to the next. And so I was forced to really sit with myself. And I had this like insane, just kind of awakening and dove into just like random YouTube spiritual teachers and then books. And then this one documentary, Finding Joe, like really changed my life. But I just, yeah, just having this time where I had to face myself and sit in my feelings. And then I just kind of exploded in this creative space and decided to become a coach and focus more on therapy. Whereas before I was teaching and working in a hotel and just kind of jumping from job to job. And so, yeah, it was kind of wild. Started my own business, got certified, like was in the midst of like all this energy and focus into me and my evolution. And realizing, holy shit, I never stopped to just be with myself and figure out who I was. I was so focused on other people and men and friends and partying and just kind of being a socialite and showing up and being the life of the party. And so, yeah, the pandemic and all of that really changed me. I became way more independent. I isolated a lot more. I mean, I had to, but then I also kind of realized how disconnected I was from the people in my life. And then fast forward around, I think it was around November 2020 that I met my partner on Tinder because I was still, I'm like super COVID cautious. And so I wasn't going out. I was just doing online stuff, and we connected on Tinder and we had a Zoom date, and it was a really cute Zoom date. But I wasn't into it. He was like so cute too. Like we went on Zoom and he wasn't in the camera, and then he jumped in and like he was just like being super adorable. But I don't remember what was going on with me, but I just was like, he's nice, but no. And so we had this like long conversation, was deep, and we connected, whatever. I could tell he was really into it. And then we hung up and I just was like, oh well, at least I went for it. And I didn't think about it, but we talked a lot about art. And he was saying, I was just starting to dabble in art again. I was like, you should really just go for it. Just fucking do it. So then a few more months go by and I kind of like honestly forgot about him. It was funny, on New Year's, I got this text that said Happy New Year's at like midnight. And I was like, who is this? And he was like, Paul. And I was like, from high school? Like I did not know who it was, and it was him. And I felt so bad. And I was just like, why did you message me at like on New Year's? Like I don't even know this person. And then on Instagram, I saw because we followed each other. I saw him posting all this art, and I was like, oh my God, he's like really doing the art thing. He like really listened to my advice. So of course that piqued my curiosity a little bit. And then one day I had this like really weird energy or like message that was like, reach out to him again. Like, let's do it. So I sent him a message and I was like, hey, do you want to Zoom again? And this was in February of 2021. And we Zoomed again. And it was like a totally different, I don't know, it was so weird. I was like in the right space, I guess. And we connected and he was so funny. And I was like, holy shit, how did I like write him off the first time? Like I didn't understand. Um, and yeah, he he also this was during a snowstorm. Texas and Austin, it's like it usually doesn't snow, but we had this crazy ice storm where it like shut everything down for a while. And I remember FaceTiming and Zooming with him a lot during that storm, and he was at his mom's, and so I was like seeing into his intimate world even though we had never met. So we just like basically were connecting via FaceTime, and it was so fun. I remember every day I'd look forward to the evening or FaceTime call, and like it was so weird because I was feeling like I was connecting with this person that I'd never met physically. So then fast forward to March, I finally am like, okay, I think I'm ready to meet you in person. And so there's this big park in Austin. It's Silker Park. It's has this like big field. So I was like, let's meet there because I was still COVID cautious. So I was like, I want to meet outdoors and do like a picnic. And so I remember I was standing under this tree and I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, what if I don't like him physically? Like, you can connect with someone, but you need that full body experience. And I remember him walking up. I was sitting on this big tree and him walking up, and I was like, oh my God, he's so adorable. And then we just sat and we totally connected, and it was just like amazing. And literally that night, I was like, dude, I don't care about COVID. Like, I want to come over and like hang out. So all social distancing went out the window. And then, yeah, we've been together ever since. And we moved in together in April. So it kind of happened really fast, and it's been tumultuous, but in a really constructive way.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that whole journey. It's so beautiful to like, I felt that same too. I was like, I've always done the inner work, but during COVID, I was like, oh shit, I really got to do some deeper stuff right now. And I ended a relationship right at the beginning too. And I was like, why did I do this to myself? But yeah, I have so many touch points I want to talk about, but I guess to start from the very beginning is, how did you get the courage to leave that relationship that was abusive? Because I'm finding a lot of friends right now like stuck in that cycle of not being able to leave.
I think it's complicated because it depends. It was more forced upon me. Like he kicked me out, but it was done in a very abusive way where like my stuff was moved out when I was at work, and he got physical, but then like blamed me, like kind of like shifted onto me like I was crazy. And then I went literally the day after, or like a week out. It was like a few days. My time, like concept of time has been like completely devastated by the pandemic, but it was like a few days after he had moved my shit out. I wanted to just talk to him. And this was somebody I'd lived with. And so I showed up at the place that I had been living, and I just knocked on the door, and he called the police on me. And that was like a very traumatic and crazy inducing kind of like, oh my God, am I like bad? Like, did I fuck up? And so I think it just really takes kind of sitting with yourself. I did a lot of like looking in the mirror and asking myself, what do I want in my life? And like, is this it? Is this what I'm settling for? And there's no one size fits all kind of scenario here. I actually used to work at the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So I worked a lot with talking to people that were in active abusive relationships. And it's just, the dynamics are like so complex, and a lot of it depends on like what abuse is being put upon you. Like some people feel trapped because there's financial aspects where people or children, so there's like a lot there. But I would say just really having an honest conversation with yourself. And that's the starting point of like really looking at yourself and clarifying, what is it you want? Because this is your life. You get to choose. And like a lot of the time, I think we forget that we get to choose.
Yeah, it's so powerful. It's like we feel like this is it, like,
Mhm.
especially with external pressures too. Like the older generation doesn't like they believe the amount of years matters more than like the quality of relationships. And it's like, oh, it's truly not that. So I'm so proud of you for being able to do that. And that sounds awful, like that whole experience. And that's the most common thing is they make you feel like it's your problem. So then you start spiraling and you're like, wait, what? Wait, you're the problem. How am I the problem? It's so weird how manipulating it is. And just like, oh, it makes me so sad. But yeah, I'm really proud of you. And yeah, that work must have been so hard. And another thing I wanted to talk about too is I love how you did move in right away. Like that's another norm that's like, don't move in right away. It's not going to work. You know, it's like all these pressures. Did your family or anyone say any of that kind of stuff to you?
Oh yeah. Like it was very like everyone's like, oh, what? Who is this person? Like, what are you doing? But I think something with the pandemic also showed me like, why wait? Like we have this idea, I think, and this is something that was really illuminated for me during the pandemic, that we can control like what happens in life. And I think that this really kind of gave like pulled the veil and pulled the curtain away, and so we see like, oh, it's all an illusion of control, like we really don't, and we're just flowing with what is, and society has all these constructs to make it feel like, oh, if I do this and if I do all these things then this will happen, like it's all that. So I just was like, fuck it. Like who's making these rules? I'm listening to myself. I'm trusting what feels right. I've been isolated for a year. I'm ready to like have connection and like be touched and like have a home, like we're all human and we need that. And so I was like, and it was interesting too, because a lot of people, and I think that this is maybe something that might resonate with others as women, a lot of people assumed I was pushing for it and like, oh, she's trying to get in. And like, that was not the case. Like he surprised, he found he was like, one day he was like, oh, I got like a realtor, we're looking at apartments today. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, let's just do it. So there was like very like a joint thing, but it was interesting. I got a lot of like, oh, you're pushing for that or you're needing that. It was, so that was, of course, judgment. But again, I was just like, I don't care. I'm happy. I like, I'm enjoying it. But of course it comes with its challenges. It's not easy to live with someone, especially when you can't socialize in the same ways or kind of escape and have your time away in the same ways, before the pandemic. And so that was new. I also was still drinking at the time. And he's sober. He's been sober for almost 3 years now. And that was a big point of contention. And it took like me getting blackout drunk one night and like doing what blackout drunk people do, which is like say shit you regret, say shit you don't mean, and really hurting him. And so we actually like broke up and I moved out for like, it was literally like a month after I moved in. And so it was like this chaotic time. And then we both had a real conversation. And after the time apart, it was like very clear we love each other, but like alcohol is very toxic. And I've struggled with alcohol for a while. So then I was like, that was my catalyst point for terminating my relationship with alcohol and going alcohol free. And so that we came back together, and ever since then, it's also been like me on my sobriety journey and like feeling everything again. And if you ever take a break from alcohol, you start to realize how much you used it to numb. And everything that I felt after that was like really intense. And so it was also challenging to be feeling everything so intensely and like having all these old traumas and feeling surface while still getting to know my partner. So it's been a rocky road, but the key is having the willingness to meet each other with understanding and communicate the whole way through and continue to check in and say, hey, like, where are you at? How are you doing? And having those hard conversations. And I think that because we don't distract or numb out, it's made it harder, but easier. Like, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I've been sober for about 4 years now too. And it's a big highlighter of like, whoa, what, what is my life and who are my connections and what do I want? And it just like brings everything to the forefront. You're like, wow, and you're just like, no, I just casually drink, like you really don't think about it. You're like, I'm not an alcoholic, or, you might not even, whatever that term means, but like you are numbing. And we all did it. Like, I mean, most likely you did it. Like, it's just so normalized, which drives me insane thinking about how normalized alcohol is. Now you just buy it at a store, you can get drunk in front of your children, like you're poisoning yourself. And it's like, it just makes me so sad, but I totally understand it. And it's fine if you like alcohol. I'm not judging you. I'm just like, look at it, it does make an impact on your life for sure, and all your relationships. It's like, it's so cool doing that partner dynamic where you're both at the same place, and like you can both like really hear each other and see each other and know each other's at, because you're fully like conscious.
Yeah, it's being present is hard. He's so wise too. Like you can tell that, I was in my first months of like alcohol free, and I didn't drink every day, but I definitely drank to numb. And like that go to like, oh no, this uncomfortable feeling is coming and I don't want to feel it. Urge would come through and it would be challenging, but he would always remind me like first 90 days are the hardest, and like you're getting through it and you're surviving it and you're feeling. He's like, I love how Glennon Doyle always puts it, like entering the land of the living. And that's how it feels. I'm like, holy shit, I'm living. And that like means feeling like everything. But yeah, it's a reassessment of your life, which is also like, I think what's added to some of the challenges in our relationship is that I've been isolating more, because as I ventured on into this kind of new alcohol free part and chapter of my life, it makes me feel very disconnected from some of my friends and people that are still kind of, that's their go-to, and not to judge them or like shame them. I love them, but there is a disconnect now. And like, I think that our priorities and like our paths are going separately. And so that's been very isolating for me. And so I felt very much alone besides my partner. And puts a lot of pressure on a relationship. It's essential for you each to have your independent lives. And that's been difficult during a pandemic, to meet new people. And so all of it's been virtual, but I'm always home. And so it's like, I need to find ways to venture out and connect with people that are, more aligned with me right now. Because you need a life outside of your partner.
Yeah, it's essential. It's like I truly believe it can't work if you don't have that. And because it's not one person's job to fulfill all of your needs and to always be there for you. Like, we have to have our other support systems, and it's just important to be like an individual. Like, you should have a separate, maybe not a whole separate life, but like a separate connections and experiences with people, because that enriches you and that grows you. And then as you grow yourself, like, you reflect that back to your partner. And but yeah, I hear you on the isolating. It's so isolating because, and like you said, like, I think people confuse all the time. It's not judging them, but it's just like we're on separate paths now. We have separate desires and wants, and so it's really good. Like, it's really hard because you're like, okay, I'm doing this hard thing, and then it's like, oh, this sucks. Like, but then it gets better. But it's just like, yeah, it's a lot at once.
Yeah, it's a lot. But the key has been being honest about it too. That was something that's like being honest when it's hard, because I'm very prideful and I like to feel like I'm always put together. And especially I think when you work in the realm of like healing and therapy and coaching, you have this tendency to want to feel like you're put together. But the best thing to do is be honest and be like, hey, I'm struggling too. Like, this is hard right now. And with my partner, he sees through it. And so he calls me out and he's like, dude, you're struggling with something. You need to like, tell me it's okay. Because if not, then it builds up and I like am irritable and like, just not fun to be around. And there's so much power in just naming it. And then I sob. I've cried more than I've ever cried in my life, like in the past 2 months. But it's been such a powerful release, and just naming it, and then having my partner so great. I really did not know like men like this existed, truly, where they sit and they listen and they like meet you with understanding. Um, so it's been also like really interesting to then reflect on my past relationships and just like the ways in which I settled and what that told me about my own relationship with myself and what that reflected to me and how much I've grown. It's just been really fascinating to be with someone who is like a healthy mirror.
It's such a big concept. Yeah. And oh, that's just so beautiful. It's like, and not like having shame for yourself either in the past for the decisions you made, but it's just like, that's the best I knew. And that's probably all I was reflected in my life as well. Like, I asked people this, like, I remember someone asked me this question, like, what relationships do you look up to in your life? And so often people don't have anyone that they're like, I want a relationship like that. And it's like, we need to change this. Like, it is so possible to have a healthy relationship, but we just are constantly settling. And it's like, no, like, there is a match for you that's better. And I believe that we have more than one soulmate, but like, we just settle for whatever we can get. And it's like, if you're doing that, you're taking that away from someone else and from yourself. So it's like, it's so important to like to find someone that you actually, are so connected with and feels good.
Yeah. And normalize the challenging moments. No relationship is going to be perfect. And I think we get so wrapped up in this idea of like what relationships should look like. Um, and a lot of relationships, like healthy ones, require you to really dig and really be honest and really move through those challenging moments and not shy away from them. Um, and that, but it's a fine balance, right? You have to ensure that it is constructive and healthy. And it's all about how you go about it, but it's not like, yay, this is my happy relationship forever. It's like, oh, I love you. Holy shit, this is real. Oh my God, I'm human. Like, it's just this like journey together. Um, but yeah, normalizing that.
Yeah, I'm reading this really good book called Enchanted Lover, and but it's so true. It's like if you're in a truly deep and real relationship, they're gonna bring out the darkest, like most uncomfortable parts of yourself. And it's not meaning that the relationship's bad. It's like this is beautiful. They're a safe enough place for you to feel those things that you've been avoiding feeling, those unmet parts of yourself that that like you've never felt safe enough to meet. And so it's like being in a safe enough relationship where you can go there and then not project onto them, but like, just feel it and, heal with them. And that's what relationships are, like truly one of the best places to heal. And so yeah, it's like that is so real and it's so normal to have conflict. Like I always think too, it's like if you're not having any conflict, there's not a level of realness there. There's no way because yeah, it's like there's just no way.
Yeah, you got to find that balance. And yeah, the safety is a huge part. Like that's one of the reasons my therapist and I, we were talking about this of like, I've been crying so much lately and feeling all these things from the past and things I haven't thought about in years. And she's like, it's because you feel safe enough finally to face them, to like surface. And so that's a real thing. So yeah, it's like all of my traumas coming up and I'm like, oh my God, this is the hardest time, but it's because of like the space I'm in and who I'm with. And so it's not easy, but it's like beautiful because I'm evolving. Truly.
Yes. Ah, that's so magical. And I also wanted to say too, I didn't get to touch on this, how like you listen to yourself with moving in. Like I as well with my last partner in my first real relationship, I moved in right away. And yeah, there's so much judgment around that from others and onto you and all these things. But at the end of the day, I've always believed like better find out sooner than later. Like why, like truly what's waiting gonna do? Like, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's so powerful because it's the best way to really know someone so fast and it like just sheds light. And that's also so cool too that you could hit that low point and then, still come back together and be like, wait, that wasn't, that wasn't true.
It was an external factor. Like, I think that's important too. Like, is this about our relationship or is this something else that's coming in? And being able to name like, oh, the issue wasn't so much us together. Like we love each other. That's not the question. What's in question is me and my health and like what's going on with me, and that's external. And so that's me figuring out, okay, like let me have a real conversation with myself. Like he mirrored to me that my relationship with alcohol was not healthy or serving me. And if I look back in the past, a lot of mistakes, a lot of fights, a lot of moments that I'm not happy about happened when I was drunk. Like, and so, yeah, it's made me really look at myself and reflect. But yeah, I would encourage people to just do what feels right. Like you trust yourself. Like there's a reason, like you're pulled to something. And yeah, we get so much messaging from an early age to not listen or trust ourselves, to like trust those in authority, to trust our parents, to trust our teachers more, government, whatever, whoever, more than yourself. And there's a time when we need guidance, but ultimately, like, listen to you. This is your fucking life. Like, I'm going to just reiterate that you get to choose um, what you want. Like, own that power.
Yes, big facts. Love that so much. Oh, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful for you opening your heart. And I would love for if you shared what you're offering right now and how people can find you.
Yeah. Right now I have a few openings for some sessions. I work as a women's reintegration empowerment coach. So I focus a lot on helping women kind of look within and find those parts that need to be reintegrated. What parts have you kind of dismissed or left in the shadows? And let's learn to connect and meet them and not demonize or shame. And really look and hold space for those challenging feelings. So if you're feeling like you're going through something, or you feel like you just need to reground and regroup and find some clarity, you can totally reach out to me on Instagram at Lucy in Disguise, or my website is Lajuna Wellness, and that's LUJUNA wellness.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.